Hey everyone, welcome to part one of Gaslit Nation's social media workshop with Rachel Brody, an organizer who works on social outreach campaigns to get out the vote. Important note to you all listening. This was a recording of a live workshop that we did in mid-January 2024. It lasted 2 hours. And we followed along as Rachel was talking with a one pager with all sorts of fun tips on it. So look out for that one pager. It's linked in the show notes for this bonus episode. So grab that and you can follow along or just listen to this as a normal podcast, however it helps you. And don't forget, mark your calendars. We're having that live taping with Tristan Snell on February 12 at 12 p.m. Eastern. Tristan was the prosecutor who led New York State's case against Trump and Trump University, and he's the author of the new book that's just out now called Taking Down Trump: 12 Rules for Prosecuting Donald Trump by Someone Who Did It Successfully. So join us with your questions on Patreon. This event is just for our Patreon community, but you can get a ticket to it by just signing up to support the show at patreon.com/gaslit at the truth teller level or higher. That's $5 a month or higher. So just pay that $5 ticket for the month. You can cancel after the event's done. And we look forward to seeing everyone there at the February 12 p.m., that's noon Eastern taping of Gaslit Nation featuring former prosecutor Tristan Snell discussing his new book on how to successfully prosecute Trump, because we're all losing faith that it will actually ever be done. So let's really bring our questions to him and be like, really, can this really actually be done? Let's talk about that. And now, without further ado, welcome to part one of Gaslit Nation's social media workshop for those who hate social media and miss the old Twitter. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special Gaslit Nation 2024 social media workshop for those who hate social media and miss old Twitter, which was a real loss. We've talked all about that on the show. With us is the tenacious Rachel Brody, a Brooklyn-based organizer. It's very important to note that Rachel lives in a red district. She is in Trumpville, Brooklyn. And so this is and I'm over in the sort of Park Slope South. So it's like a blue state, red state discussion on how we fight for our democracy and how we use social media to organize. And so Rachel is also one of many projects she's involved in is that she is fighting the good fight for cleaning up house here in New York State. New York State famously lost us the House of Representatives in the 2022 election, brought George Santos to power, thanks to the help with lots of Kremlin dark money, and turned all of Long Island, where there used to be a Nazi camp, red, bright red. And now there's all this talk of Elise Stefanik being a possible VP for Donald Trump, and she's really auditioning for it. She wants to be the next Mike Pence. And she's calling the January 6th terrorists hostages and so on. So we're trying here, guys. Okay, if you're not in New York State, Rachel Brody is very much on the front lines of pushing back here. So Rachel, give us a quick summary of where things are with your excellent effort. Replace Jay Jacobs. Jay Jacobs being the impotent, useless, waste of space party chair of the New York State Democratic Party. He is the opposite of what they have going on in Michigan and Wisconsin, and it's so depressing. And New York can do so much better. So where are we with that?
So at this point, a little background on the coalition that's working to replace Jay Jacobs. It's a group of about 1,800 activists who signed on to a letter or joined a coalition later in our life after the last November elections in 2022. As Andrea mentioned, we lost a lot of winnable seats in New York, and this was because the state party did nothing. And in some cases, worse than nothing. So these activists have come together. We have committees that meet regularly. We have working groups that meet regularly. Earlier in our life, we put out a job description and a vision for the New York State Democratic Party and the party chair. That's ongoing work. And now we're focused on finding someone to replace Jay Jacobs. One of the big efforts that we're making, especially because now we're in an election year and we want to be able to prove that we're not just complaining, we're out there doing things, is we have a New York-based volunteer tracking form where we're asking folks, if you're in New York and you're volunteering for any Democrat at any level of government, from school board right on up to, Congress, please go log those volunteer hours. We're asking just for folks from New York, whether you're doing that volunteering with an organization, on your own, directly with the campaign, wherever you're doing those volunteer hours, to try and capture them. And then our plan is to put out a report at the end of the election season cataloging how much work we've put into doing what the state party ought to be doing. If you're in the document that Andrea linked to a minute ago, there is a Slack invite link where you're welcome to join our Slack. We've got about 400 people on the Slack, and that's where a lot of our work happens. We also have a Google group that I can add folks to if you want to message me once you're in the Slack. And that's kind of where things stand right now. Like I said, we're out there looking for our next party chair. If there are folks who people want to recommend, if there's somebody who's really caught your attention in New York, please join the Slack, put those thoughts out there. It's a very collaborative group, and we're always really excited to have new folks tune in.